Hey guys, I'm so sorry because I know there's drilling going on and I'm not tech savvy enough to know how to get rid of that. My deepest apologies. This is probably going to be a really annoying podcast to listen to, but arguably one of the most important ones I've ever made. I was just meditating and I've been doing 20 minutes meditation every day for the last few days just to try and recalibrate myself a little bit. And I was feeling really aimless today. Vicky's just gone home and I was sat in my bed and I was thinking, I have so much shit to do, but I feel so, I don't know what to do with myself. And I was thinking I was excited to get back to routine and stuff like that. But then I was thinking, I'm actually so lonely right now. And I'm not someone that gets lonely really ever. So I was like, okay, I'll have a meditate and hopefully that will help. And usually I do 20 minutes. And today I always set a timer and I always know when the meditation's up. And for the past few times it's been really weird because the meditation has ended just as the alarm's gone off, which is obviously quite cosmic in a way, I guess. But today it was actually a very short one. It was only about 6 minutes. And I always go through the same thing. I do a bit of breath work and then I do some chakra stuff and then, visualization, whatever. And then it started, and the way that it starts for me is usually I get a vision of a scenario or whatever. If you've ever listened to a guided meditation, you'll know what I'm talking about. And today, I'm just going to try and relay what the meditation said to me in the best way that I can, because it was really thought-provoking. So it was showing me this image of a droplet of water falling through the sky. And it was imagine yourself as this droplet of water, and you're falling through the sky, and when you enter a certain point in the atmosphere, your structure changes. You become snow, an icicle, you stay water, you evaporate. Your structure changes based on your environment. And when your structure changes, your interpretation of yourself and the way that you are received by others changes. And whoever was putting this information in my head was saying, but at the core of it, you are still the same molecule, right? You are still hydrogen and oxygen, just in different shapes or structures, I guess. And it was saying that kind of going through life is that's kind of a metaphor for going through life, is that you are just put in a bunch of different scenarios or environments that change your structure. Sometimes you have to be more rigid, other times you have to be more fluid. And the same way water does, we do change based on our environment. And I'm not here to get into a whole code switching debate or discussion. It's kind of not relevant. But I've just been thinking recently, what am I doing? Where am I going? Am I changing? Am I becoming a different person? Do I want to become a different person? Just all of those typical existential thoughts. And I was thinking I've really started to have some mindset shifts recently towards what I put out online and my appearance, I guess, digital footprint type stuff, and how I choose to dress and all things like that, because I have a very solid sense of style and the way that I present is typically quite consistent. Although I do have a few different, aesthetics that I like to lean into. For the most part, my style is relatively consistent. And I've been thinking recently about, feeling maybe some of that is a little outdated, but it still feels right for me. But there are certain things that I'm looking to move more towards. And if I factor that in with my new job and my new environment and my friends and my culture and all the things around me, my environment, right? Everything that makes up my environment, I've noticed that it's changing my structure slightly. And there was another part of this meditation followed on from what I was just saying, and it was saying that some people love snow, but they hate steam. And some people love steam, but they hate snow. Some people don't like the rain, but they like icicles, but it's all the same thing innately. The actual, molecule is the same, it's just in a different format. And that is solely dependent on the environment. And it's kind of like that, that Instagram post that went viral a few years ago, and it's like, if you put eggs in water, they go hard, but if you put pasta in water, it goes soft. It's not about the thing, it's about the environment in which the thing is placed in that has the effect on the thing. And I guess if you could look at like trauma, in that sense, it could explain why certain people react differently to different stimulus because of their conditioning. And I think maybe our conditioning, it determines what we are. Are we pasta or are we eggs? Or I'm really not trying to reduce us down to like household staples, but I'm hoping you see my point, that I feel like the older I get, the more I'm realizing that it's not really about finding out who you are at all. It's about finding out how you're reacting to different stimuli. Because who you are has nothing to do with whether or not you find something difficult or challenging or easy or, motivating. I think who you are comes down to something that is not tangible, your consciousness, your mindset. And obviously your consciousness and your mindset affects what you find easy and hard and, but again, it's all in the mind. Nothing about that is physical. And our physical changes, again, if we go back to this like water metaphor that somehow is the main concept of this episode, the state change, it's neutral. It just happens as a result of conditions changing. So by that argument, you could kind of argue that your state changing based on your stimuli is neutral and passive and kind of obvious and expected. And if we had no conscious? I don't know. If we weren't conscious to the changes that were happening, would we tie any moral weight to it, or would it just be? Do animals tie moral weight to things, or do they just let it be? Things like that. It's like, if you look at it from an animalistic sense, do we lean too heavily on the emotional side of every situation ever? And this is so relevant, but I gave my tarot cards to Vicky before she left because I felt like I was leaning too heavily on them to look for the answers or the reasons or the purpose behind why things were happening. And I felt like I was kind of using them more as a means of control rather than a spiritual gift, which is never good. And obviously I recognised that, and I wanted to give that up and give that away. And I know that the cards will come back to me when they're meant to. But it was a really interesting kind of moment where I felt like I just need to just let things pan out for a change, instead of trying to know the answers or figure out the answers, or like the water droplet isn't anticipating when it's going to turn into an icicle, or when it's going to turn into steam, or when it's going to enter these different states. Like, so therefore I shouldn't be anticipating when I'm going to have to toughen up or when I can relax, or I should just be letting these things happen. And as a result of that, I feel like I would be living in much more of a flow state. I feel like I'm really having a lot of realizations right now, and this drill is really annoying me. But my brain's also turned off. So I know this was a really short episode, but I was really happy with it. Thanks guys for listening. Love you. Bye.